We're expecting 1.5 million. What do you think is going to happen?
So I see quite a bit of downside in today's numbers. I'm projecting no growth essentially in the labor market in the month of July. I think we'll see decent growth in manufacturing, construction, but the service sector is looking a little bit shaky. When you look at high frequency data, the evidence is overwhelmingly pointing to a sharp slowdown, if not a contraction in service hiring. And I think state and local governments is where you're going to see renewed weakness as well. And I think that's caused by, a lot of people will blame it on the COVID resurgence. I think that's part of the story. But I think another story is obviously the fiscal cliff and in the jobs picture in particular, the fact that the PPP loans, which did allow companies to rehire a lot of workers, I think that money is essentially run out. And I think you're going to see some renewed layoffs as a result of that.
Yeah, Michelle, ADP kind of muddied the water this week. With this well below expectations number, do you think we'll meet the 1.5 million or exceed it, or how do you think things are going to come in today?
Our numbers are very much in line with ADP and with Aneta's numbers. We have a job gain of just 200,000, so essentially a stall in the recovery. I agree with everything that Aneta said. I think, I just think even stepping back, it was always going to be the case when you go from a near shutdown of activity to a sudden, or a reopening, that you're going to see a sudden snapback. And I was enthusiastic as anybody around the strength of the recovery, of the numbers rebounding in May and in June, but always cautioning that, the first kind of rebound, or the first recovery in jobs, that's pretty easy. You'd expect that, and always worried that even without a pickup in infection rates, because of some longer-term damage that's been done, getting all the way back was going to be more difficult. So I also think, in addition to a number of these factors, which may be a headwind, for July, that in general, to extrapolate that initial bounce all the way back to a full, true V-shaped recovery, I think that was probably a little over-optimistic.
Interesting. Aneta, Andrew talked earlier, sort of when we were having a conversation about market reactions to certain events. How much is it a binary event for the job market to a vaccine? And until we get that, you're not going to really be able to even come close to a full recovery.
Oh, absolutely. But I would say even post-vaccine, we shouldn't be hoping for a quick return to, the level of employment that we saw prior to COVID. By our estimates, we've already lost about 12% of small businesses. That's roughly 5.5 million jobs that are just not coming back. You're going to have to rebuild them organically through new business creation or expansion of the businesses that do survive. And that's just not something that happens overnight.
Michelle, it's hard to look at the numbers and think that there was a 3.5% unemployment rate and that we added 7 million jobs in May and June, but that we lost 22 million in March and April. It tells a story of just how far we still have to go and the challenges that still exist.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was alluding to. I think you can recoup a good portion of those, of those job losses. And again, there's been even a stall in that because of the rise in infections, and I think growing worries of a so-called W recovery. I mean, I think when you were talking about market reaction, that the risk here is that when you see a disappointment, if you were to see numbers along the numbers that we're talking about, it will raise concerns that we may have a so-called somewhat double dip in the second half of the year. It will really focus, I think, attention on the assumption that, that we're sort of past it. And of course, as uncertainty increases over the outlook, it can feed on itself. It can lead to more cautious behavior on the part of both businesses with respect to hiring and consumers with their willingness to spend, whether it's out of savings or out of current income. So I do think unfortunately, there is a sort of a reality check here about really this idea, again, of how long, because of economic scarring, it will take to get the economy back to pre-COVID levels.